Maria's hands, calloused from years of cleaning, moved with practiced efficiency across the polished marble countertop. The grand house she worked in was always spotless, a silent testament to her tireless effort. Every swipe, every scrub, every moment spent bent over a mop bucket was for one person, her daughter, Lily. Maria was a single mother, and her life was a constant balancing act, stretching meager earnings to cover rent, food, and the endless small necessities of life. But beneath the daily grind, there was a fierce, unwavering hope, a dream for Lily to have a life far richer than her own, full of opportunities Maria had only ever glimpsed through the windows of the homes she cleaned. Lily was a whirlwind of quiet intensity, her mind always bubbling with colors and shapes. From the moment she could hold a crayon, she drew. Walls, napkins, the back of homework assignments. Nothing was safe from her artistic impulse. Now, at 16, her talent was undeniable. Her sketches weren't just lines on paper. They were windows into a vibrant, imaginative world. Her art teacher, a kind woman named Mrs. Davis, often told Maria that Lily was special, that she needed formal training to truly blossom. Mrs. Davis spoke of prestigious art academies, places that sounded like distant castles to Maria, far removed from their small rented apartment. Saving money was a daily discipline for Maria. Every extra dollar, every spare coin, found its way into a large ceramic jar, shaped like an owl perched on their kitchen counter. It was heavy now, its belly full of clinking metal, a symbol of countless small sacrifices. Sometimes, Maria would shake it gently, listening to the metallic symphony, and a quiet determination would settle in her heart. This wasn't just money. It was Lily's future, piece by shiny piece. Lily, in her own way, understood the weight of that jar. She saw the lines of fatigue around her mother's eyes, the way Maria's shoulders slumped at the end of a long day. She knew the art supplies she used, the canvases and paints, were bought with money that could have gone to something else. This awareness fueled her ambition, pushing her to practice even harder, to make every stroke count. She felt a deep responsibility to make her mother's sacrifices worthwhile, to prove that their shared dream was not just a fantasy. One afternoon, the mail arrived with an envelope bearing the crest of the elite art academy. Lily's heart hammered as she tore it open. Inside, a letter began with, "Congratulations." Lily had been accepted. Her scream of joy brought Maria rushing from the kitchen, flour dusting her apron. But as they read further, a new emotion crept in: the tuition fee. It was a number so large, it made Maria's stomach clench. It was a mountain, but Maria, looking at Lily's radiant face, knew they had to climb it. The owl jar, she decided, would be their first step. That evening, the small apartment was filled with the metallic clatter of coins. Maria and Lily sat on the floor, surrounded by piles of pennies, nickels, dimes, and quarters. It was a slow, painstaking process. Each coin represented a choice: a skipped coffee, a worn-out pair of shoes kept for another season, a cheaper cut of meat. As they sorted and stacked, a quiet understanding passed between them. This wasn't just about money. It was about love, sacrifice, and a shared belief in a brighter tomorrow. Lily would occasionally pick up a particularly shiny penny, holding it up to the light, her eyes reflecting the hope it represented. Maria, watching her, felt a warmth spread through her chest, pushing away the anxiety about the sheer size of the tuition. They worked late into the night, their fingers sticky with the grime of old coins. Finally, the last coin was counted. They had enough for the first installment, a substantial amount, but only a fraction of the total. Still, it was a start. They carefully separated the coins into sturdy canvas bags, each one heavy with the weight of their combined efforts. The bags sat on the table, guardians of a dream, ready for their journey to the elite art academy. Maria looked at the bags, then at Lily, a tired but triumphant smile on her face. Lily returned the smile, her eyes sparkling with anticipation. The academy, once a distant dream, now felt tantalizingly close. They had faced the first hurdle, and together they had overcome it. The path ahead was still long, but for now they had hope and a bag full of coins, ready to pay for Lily's future. The next morning, a nervous energy filled the air as Maria and Lily made their way to the elite art academy. The building itself was a grand, imposing structure of stone and glass, standing tall against the city skyline. It looked expensive, important, and a little bit intimidating. Lily's hand trembled slightly as they walked up the wide steps, her heart thumping with a mixture of excitement and fear. Maria squeezed her daughter's hand, offering a comforting smile, but inside she felt a familiar knot of apprehension. This was a world so different from their own, a world she barely understood. They found the registration office tucked away in a sleek, modern wing of the academy. The waiting area was tastefully decorated, filled with plush chairs and abstract art. Other parents, dressed in expensive clothes, chatted quietly, sipping coffee from ceramic mugs. Maria felt a little out of place in her simple, clean dress, but she held her head high. This was for Lily. At the counter, a young woman with perfectly styled hair and a bored expression sat behind a gleaming desk. Her name tag read, Brenda. As Maria and Lily approached, Brenda barely looked up from her computer screen, her fingers tapping away at the keyboard. Her attitude was immediately dismissive, a subtle curl of her lip as her eyes briefly scanned Maria's plain attire. She didn't offer a greeting, just a sigh that seemed to say, "What now?" "We're here to register Lily," Maria said, her voice a little softer than she intended. She pushed the acceptance letter across the counter. Brenda took the letter with 2 fingers, as if it might contaminate her, and glanced at it. "Name?" she asked, her tone flat. "Lily Costa," Lily answered, her voice small. Brenda typed something, then looked up, her gaze falling on the heavy canvas bags Maria had placed gently on the floor beside her. Her eyes narrowed. "Payment method?" she asked, her voice laced with a hint of suspicion. Maria took a deep breath. "We're paying in cash," she said, bending down to retrieve the first bag. The clinking sound of the coins was surprisingly loud in the quiet office. She lifted the heavy bag onto the counter. Brenda's perfectly made-up face twisted into an expression of pure disgust. Her eyes widened, not in surprise, but in something akin to revulsion. She stared at the bag of coins as if it were a pile of dirt. "Are you serious?" she scoffed, her voice rising slightly. "You're paying tuition in coins?" The question hung in the air, sharp and humiliating. Lily, who had been glowing with excitement just moments before, felt her cheeks flush crimson. Her initial thrill of being at the prestigious academy quickly evaporated, replaced by a wave of shame. She instinctively pulled back a step, wishing she could disappear into the polished floor. The stares of the other parents in the waiting area, which had been casual before, now felt like burning spotlights. She could hear a few whispers, a muffled laugh. Maria, however, stood firm. "Yes," she said, her voice gaining a quiet strength. "This is what we have." She reached for the second bag. Brenda threw her hands up in exasperation. "Are you kidding me? Do you have any idea how long this will take to count? This isn't a piggy bank, lady. This is the Elite Art Academy." She pushed the bag back slightly, as if the coins themselves were offensive. "We have card machines, you know. Or a bank account? People usually pay with actual money, not pocket change." The mockery in her voice was unmistakable, cutting through the air like a knife. Lily felt a hot sting behind her eyes, fighting back tears. She looked at her mother, whose face was now tight with a mixture of embarrassment and defiance. Maria tried to offer Lily another reassuring glance, but Brenda's taunts only escalated. "Honestly, some people," Brenda muttered, loud enough for everyone to hear. She rolled her eyes dramatically. "What am I supposed to do with all this? Get a coin sorter? This is so unprofessional. This is going to hold up the whole line." She gestured vaguely at the empty waiting area, then back at Maria. "Maybe you should have thought about how you were going to pay before signing up for an expensive art school. Or maybe get a real job that pays in bills." Her words were harsh, designed to wound. Lily's shoulders slumped, her dreams suddenly feeling fragile and out of reach. She just wanted to run away, to hide from Brenda's cruel gaze and the judging eyes of the other parents. The weight of the coins, which had felt like hope just hours before, now felt like a crushing burden. Maria, despite the flush on her face, maintained her composure, her grip tightening on the counter. She wouldn't let this woman break Lily's spirit. She wouldn't let her dismiss their hard work and sacrifice. But the humiliation was palpable, a bitter taste in the back of Lily's mouth. The academy, which had seemed like a beacon of hope, now felt like a place where they didn't belong. The loud, mocking complaints from Brenda continued, echoing in the pristine office, making every second feel like an eternity. Unbeknownst to Maria and Lily, a man had been observing the entire scene unfolding at the registration desk. His name was Mr. Harrison, and he was not just any observer. He was a distinguished figure, a renowned philanthropist whose quiet generosity had touched countless lives. More than that, he was a silent benefactor of the elite art academy, a key member of its board, and a significant donor who often preferred to remain in the background, letting his contributions speak for themselves. His presence at the academy that day was for a routine check-in, a quiet assessment of the institution's operations, and a particular interest in identifying potential scholarship candidates who might otherwise be overlooked. Mr. Harrison had initially been making his way towards the director's office, a quiet, unassuming man in a well-tailored but not overly flashy suit. He had snippets of Brenda's increasingly loud and disdainful remarks from a distance. The tone had been enough to make him pause. He was immediately struck by Brenda's unprofessional and outright cruel behavior. He watched as she pushed the bags of coins back, her face contorted in a sneer, and listened to her cutting remarks about Maria's financial situation and the supposed inconvenience of paying in coins. His gaze then shifted to Maria, who, despite the blatant disrespect, held herself with a quiet dignity that impressed him. He saw the flush on her cheeks, the tightening of her jaw, but also the unwavering stance she maintained for her daughter. Then he looked at Lily, whose initial bright excitement had been brutally crushed, replaced by visible distress and a deep, mortified shame. Her shoulders were slumped, her head bowed slightly, as if trying to shrink away from the harsh spotlight Brenda had shone on them. As Mr. Harrison observed, a wave of memories washed over him. He recalled his own humble beginnings, a time when his family had struggled immensely, counting every penny, making every sacrifice. He remembered the sting of poverty, the subtle and not-so-subtle judgments from those who had more. He had worked his way up from nothing, building his empire on hard work, resilience, and an unshakable belief in the dignity of every individual, regardless of their financial status. He believed deeply in the value of effort and respect, understanding that true worth was not measured by the size of one's bank account, but by the content of one's character. Brenda's actions deeply offended his sense of justice, striking a raw nerve that resonated with his past. He found her behavior abhorrent, a stark contrast to the values the Academy supposedly stood for, and certainly a stark contrast to his own personal ethos. For a brief moment, a fleeting thought crossed his mind to simply continue on his way, to let the Academy's internal mechanisms handle the situation. He was a busy man, and intervening in every minor dispute was not his usual modus operandi. However, his conscience quickly compelled him to act. He realized that true character, both his own and that of an institution, was revealed not in how one treated the powerful, but in how one treated those perceived as lesser, those who might not have a voice or the means to defend themselves adequately. He understood that Maria and Lily were vulnerable in that moment, and Brenda was exploiting that vulnerability with callous disregard. The longer he watched, the more convinced he became that he could not simply stand by. The Academy prided itself on nurturing talent, and here was talent being stifled, humiliated, and almost turned away by an employee's prejudice. He decided then and there that he had to intervene, not just for Maria and Lily, but for the principle of the thing, for the very soul of the institution he supported. With his decision made, Mr. Harrison began to move. He calmly walked towards the registration desk, his footsteps quiet on the polished floor. His presence, though understated, exuded an aura of authority and quiet respectability that had a way of commanding attention without demanding it. He moved with a purpose, his gaze still fixed on Brenda, who was, at that very moment, still engrossed in her dramatic mockery. She was so caught up in her own self-righteous indignation and the performance she was putting on for the other parents that she did not immediately notice the distinguished man approaching her station. Her voice continued, a shrill complaint about the ridiculousness of the situation, oblivious to the fact that a much more significant force was about to enter her carefully constructed little drama. The whispers among the other parents had quieted, as they, too, sensed a shift in the atmosphere, their eyes now darting between the commotion at the desk and the approaching figure of Mr. Harrison. They seemed to hold their breath, anticipating what would happen next, as the quiet benefactor of the Academy stepped into the heart of the humiliating scene. Mr. Harrison reached the desk, his presence casting a subtle shadow over Brenda's flustered form. He gently placed his hand on her shoulder, a move that was less a touch and more a firm, polite interruption. Brenda, mid-sentence in her rant about the coins, jumped, startled by the unexpected contact. Her eyes, which had been narrowed in disdain at Maria, now widened as she turned to face him. For a moment, she looked like a deer caught in headlights, her carefully constructed facade of authority crumbling slightly. She quickly tried to regain her composure, smoothing down her uniform and offering a tight, artificial smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Mr. Harrison's voice, when he spoke, was calm and measured, yet it cut through the lingering tension in the air. "Excuse me," he began, his tone polite but firm, "but I couldn't help but notice the way you were speaking to these ladies. Is there a problem here that warrants such an unpleasant tone?" Brenda's fake smile faltered. She stammered, trying to find an excuse. "Sir, it's just... they want to pay the tuition with all these coins. It's highly inconvenient, and it will take forever to count. We have other people waiting. Important people." She gestured vaguely toward the small group of onlookers, trying to rally their unspoken support. Mr. Harrison raised an eyebrow, his gaze unwavering. Inconvenient, perhaps, he conceded, but not a reason for disrespect. Every paying customer, regardless of their method of payment, deserves courtesy and professionalism. This academy prides itself on fostering a welcoming environment for all aspiring artists. Does it not? He paused, letting his words hang in the air. Brenda, visibly uncomfortable, shifted her weight. She tried to justify herself further, her voice taking on a whiny defensive edge. But sir, it's just so much. It's not how things are usually done. People usually use cards or checks. Mr. Harrison's expression remained impassive, but his eyes held a steeliness that Brenda seemed to finally sense. How things are usually done does not dictate how people should be treated, he stated, his voice now carrying a quiet authority that silenced any further protest from Brenda. The value of the payment is the same. Whether it comes in large bills, a check, or a collection of hard-earned coins, the only thing that matters is the intention behind it and the respect shown to those making the effort. He then turned his attention slightly towards Maria and Lily, offering them a small, reassuring smile. Maria, still reeling from the sudden turn of events, could only nod, her eyes wide with a mixture of confusion and dawning hope. Lily, who had been on the verge of tears moments before, now looked up at Mr. Harrison with a flicker of gratitude in her eyes. Brenda, still trying to grasp the situation and regain control, finally asked, her voice laced with a hint of irritation, "And who exactly are you, sir, to be interfering with Academy business?" This was the moment Mr. Harrison had been waiting for. He turned back to Brenda, his gaze direct. "My name is Arthur Harrison," he said simply. He then paused, letting the name sink in. He continued, "I am a member of the Academy's Board of Directors, and I also happen to be one of its most significant benefactors. I take a personal interest in ensuring this institution upholds its values and provides an equitable environment for all. And frankly," he added, his voice dropping slightly, "I am deeply disappointed by what I have just witnessed." Brenda's face, which had been flushed with annoyance, now drained of all color. Her jaw dropped slightly. The name Arthur Harrison was synonymous with wealth, power, and influence within the art world, and especially within the elite art academy. She had seen his name on plaques, on donor lists, and in official academy communications, always accompanied by a title of immense importance. The realization hit her like a cold wave. She had just publicly mocked and humiliated a prospective student and her mother, right in front of one of the Academy's most powerful figures. Her carefully constructed arrogance shattered, replaced by a look of sheer terror. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. Mr. Harrison didn't wait for her to recover. He turned fully to Maria and Lily, his previous sternness replaced by a genuinely kind smile. "Please don't worry about the payment," he said, his voice gentle. He reached into the inner pocket of his finely tailored suit jacket and pulled out a sleek black credit card. It was an exclusive card, a clear symbol of immense wealth, instantly recognizable to anyone who knew such things. He held it out to Brenda. "Process the full tuition payment for Lily's enrollment using this," he instructed, his voice leaving no room for argument. "And ensure that all necessary fees are covered. I want to make sure Lily can focus entirely on her art without any financial burdens." Maria was utterly stunned. Her mind struggled to comprehend the rapid shift in circumstances. One moment, she was enduring public humiliation, her daughter's dreams hanging by a thread, and the next, A complete stranger, a powerful and kind man, was offering to pay for everything. Tears welled in her eyes, not of sadness, but of overwhelming relief and gratitude. She tried to speak, but her voice caught in her throat. Lily, who had been holding her breath, let out a small, shaky gasp. Her eyes, still a little red from her earlier embarrassment, now shone with disbelief and a profound sense of wonder. The weight that had been pressing down on her heart for the past few minutes, the shame and the fear that her dream was about to be snatched away, suddenly lifted. She stared at the black card in Mr. Harrison's hand, then at his kind face, then back at her mother, who was now openly weeping. The other parents in the waiting area, who had been whispering and casting judgmental glances just moments before, were now utterly silent, their expressions a mixture of awe and surprise. They had witnessed the entire dramatic exchange, from Brenda's cruel mockery to Mr. Harrison's powerful and unexpected intervention. The atmosphere, which had been thick with tension and judgment, was now filled with a palpable sense of shock and admiration. The quiet benefactor had not just observed, he had acted, and he had done so with a gesture that was both grand and deeply compassionate. Brenda, clearly rattled, took the black card from Mr. Harrison. Her hands trembled slightly as she swiped it through the card reader. The machine beeped, confirming the transaction. She looked at the screen, then back at Mr. Harrison, her face a mixture of fear and a desperate attempt at professionalism. It went through, she stammered, her voice barely a whisper. She tried to offer a strained smile, a weak attempt to salvage the situation. I apologize for the inconvenience, sir, and for everything. Her words felt hollow, a forced apology born of panic rather than genuine remorse. Mr. Harrison simply nodded, his expression unreadable. He knew a true apology when he heard one, and this was not it. He had seen enough of Brenda's character in the last few minutes to understand that her actions stemmed from a deeper issue than just a bad day. He made a mental note to address her conduct properly, away from the eyes of Maria and Lily, but his immediate priority was the two women before him. Maria, still holding back sobs, finally found her voice. "Mr. Harrison," she began, her voice thick with emotion. "I don't know how to thank you. You have no idea what this means to us." She made a move to reach for his hand, but hesitated, feeling unworthy. Her eyes, red-rimmed but filled with profound gratitude, met his. "Lily has worked so hard for this. We've saved every coin, every penny, for years. We never thought—" She trailed off, unable to articulate the immense relief washing over her. She tried to explain their struggles, the long hours she worked, the sacrifices she made as a maid to ensure Lily had this chance. But Mr. Harrison gently raised a hand, cutting her off. "Please, Maria," he said softly, using her name with a respect that Brenda had totally lacked. "There's no need for explanations. Your dedication is clear, and Lily's talent speaks for itself. That's all that matters." He looked at Lily, offering her a reassuring smile. Lily, still processing the whirlwind of events, felt a sudden rush of tears. They weren't tears of shame or embarrassment now, but of pure, unadulterated relief and joy. The humiliation she had felt just moments ago vanished, replaced by a profound sense of validation. She had been so close to giving up, to telling her mother that maybe the academy wasn't for them, that perhaps her dream was too big. But now it was real. It was tangible. "Thank you, Mr. Harrison," she managed to say, her voice cracking. You saved my dream." She wiped a tear from her cheek, feeling a lightness she hadn't experienced in years. The weight that had been pressing down on her, the fear of disappointing her mother, of her own aspirations being crushed, had been lifted by this stranger's incredible kindness. Mr. Harrison's gaze softened as he looked at both Maria and Lily. "My dear, talent like yours, Lily, should never be held back by financial constraints or by unkindness," he said. He spoke with a quiet conviction, his words carrying the weight of his own experiences. "I believe in supporting individuals who show passion, dedication, and a true gift. True wealth isn't just about the money you have, but about the character you build and the compassion you show to others." He paused, his eyes twinkling slightly. "I've seen many people come through the doors of this academy, some with great wealth, some with modest means. But it's the character, the drive, and the genuine spirit of an artist that truly makes a difference. And I see all of that in you, Lily." He gave Maria a nod. "And Maria, your dedication to your daughter is truly commendable. You should be incredibly proud." With the tuition paid and the paperwork completed, Lily was officially enrolled in the Elite Art Academy. The confirmation slip, warm in her hand, felt like a golden ticket. Maria, her heart swelling with a mix of relief and immense pride, couldn't stop smiling. Her daughter, her talented Lily, was going to art school. The dream they had nurtured for so long, through countless sacrifices and endless coin counting, was finally coming true. They walked out of the registration office, leaving a stunned Brenda and a room full of whispering parents behind them. The grand building, which had felt so intimidating just an hour before, now seemed to welcome them, full of promise and possibility. They left with a newfound sense of hope, a profound respect for the unexpected kindness of a stranger, and a powerful belief that good things could indeed happen. Even after the darkest moments, the journey had been difficult, but this unexpected turn of events had not only secured Lily's future, but it also reaffirmed their faith in the inherent goodness of people. After Maria and Lily left the registration office, the silence that followed was heavy, broken only by the faint hum of the air conditioning. Mr. Harrison turned his attention back to Brenda, his expression now serious, devoid of the warmth he had shown to Maria and Lily. He stood for a moment, letting the weight of his gaze settle on her. Brenda, still pale, fidgeted behind the counter, her earlier arrogance completely gone. She looked like a child caught doing something wrong, her eyes darting around the room, avoiding his. "Brenda," Mr. Harrison began, his voice low, but carrying a distinct edge of authority. "What I just witnessed was completely unacceptable. This academy prides itself on fostering talent, on inclusivity, and on treating every individual who walks through these doors with respect. Your behavior today went against every single one of those values." He didn't raise his voice, but his words landed with the precision of a hammer blow. "The way you spoke to that young woman and her mother, the blatant disrespect, the mockery, it was truly appalling." Brenda finally managed to meet his eyes, her lower lip trembling slightly. "Mr. Harrison, I truly apologize. It was just the coins, sir. It's so much work to count them, and it holds up the line. I didn't mean to be rude, not really. It was just an inconvenience." She tried to sound contrite, but her words still carried a hint of self-pity, an attempt to justify her actions rather than truly own them. Mr. Harrison simply shook his head. "Inconvenience? Brenda, you humiliated a mother and her daughter for trying to pay for an education. You made them feel small and unwelcome in a place that is supposed to inspire dreams. That was not an inconvenience. That was a deliberate act of unkindness, and it reflects very poorly on you, and by extension, on this institution." He paused, letting his words sink in. "Your job here is to facilitate, to assist, to be a welcoming face, not to judge, not to mock, and certainly not to belittle our students or their families, regardless of how they choose to pay." Brenda's face crumpled further. "I understand, sir. I really do. It won't happen again. Please, I need this job." She was desperate now, the reality of her situation finally hitting her. She tried to shift the blame, muttering something about a long day, about other demanding parents, but Mr. Harrison cut her off with a firm, dismissive gesture. "The Academy has a clear policy," he stated, his voice unwavering. "We believe in respect, in nurturing talent from all backgrounds. Your actions today directly violated those principles. You demonstrated a severe lack of professionalism and empathy, qualities that are non-negotiable for anyone working here, especially at the front desk, where you are the first point of contact." He looked around the now quiet registration office, where the other parents who had been whispering moments ago were now conspicuously silent, pretending to be absorbed in their phones or paperwork. He knew they had all witnessed the entire ugly scene. "I will be speaking with the Academy director immediately about this incident," Mr. Harrison informed her. His tone left no room for negotiation or argument. Such conduct cannot and will not be tolerated. True to his word, Mr. Harrison promptly went to the director's office. Director Evans, a stern but fair woman who had dedicated her life to the arts, listened intently as Mr. Harrison recounted the events. Her face grew increasingly grim with each detail. She knew Mr. Harrison not only as a major benefactor, but also as a man of impeccable integrity and judgment. His word was absolute. "I am appalled, Mr. Harrison," Director Evans said, her voice tight with anger once he had finished speaking. "Absolutely appalled. This is precisely the kind of behavior we strive to eliminate from our institution. It completely undermines everything we stand for." She understood the potential damage this incident could cause to the Academy's reputation, especially coming from a staff member at the very front of their operations. She also knew that Mr. Harrison, as a key board member and a significant donor, would not let this slide. An immediate investigation was launched into Brenda's conduct. Director Evans called Brenda into her office shortly after Mr. Harrison left. Brenda, still visibly shaken, tried to offer her apologies and excuses, but the director was having none of it. She laid out the complaints, detailing how Brenda's actions had not only been unprofessional, but had also caused significant distress to prospective students and their family. The director emphasized the Academy's commitment to diversity and inclusion, and how Brenda's behavior directly contradicted those core values. Brenda was suspended, pending a formal review. The director made it clear that her actions had been severe enough to warrant termination. She assured Mr. Harrison that appropriate disciplinary action would be taken, stressing that the Academy would not tolerate such disrespect towards any member of its community. The incident served as a stark reminder to all staff about the importance of treating everyone with dignity, regardless of their perceived social standing or economic means. A memo was circulated internally, reiterating the Academy's policies on respect and professionalism, though it didn't specifically name Brenda or the incident. Everyone knew what it was about. The message was clear. There would be no more cashiers mocking those who dared to pay in coins. The Academy, under Mr. Harrison's watchful eye and the director's firm hand, was committed to upholding its values, ensuring that every aspiring artist, regardless of their background, felt welcomed and respected. The humiliation Lily and Maria faced would not be in vain. With the immediate crisis resolved, and Brenda facing the consequences of her actions, a new chapter began for Lily. She started her classes at the Elite Art Academy, a place that once seemed impossibly out of reach. From her very first day, Lily thrived. The initial shock of the Academy's grandeur quickly faded, replaced by a deep immersion in art. Her talent, which had blossomed quietly in her small apartment, now found fertile ground to grow. Professors were quickly impressed by her unique perspective and her dedication. She wasn't just technically skilled, she had a way of seeing the world that translated into powerful emotive art. Her peers, initially a diverse mix of backgrounds, soon recognized her innate ability and her relentless work ethic. Lily dedicated herself completely to her studies, remembering every day the sacrifices Maria had made and the unexpected kindness of Mr. Harrison. Every stroke of her brush, every sketch in her notebook, was fueled by a quiet determination to make their efforts worthwhile. Mr. Harrison, true to his character, didn't just disappear after his grand gesture. He maintained a discreet yet keen interest in Lily's progress. Through Director Evans, he received regular updates on her academic achievements and artistic development. He saw more than just a talented student. He saw potential for greatness, a young artist whose voice could genuinely contribute something significant to the art world. For him, investing in Lily wasn't just charity. It was an investment in the future of art itself. He believed in supporting raw talent, especially when it came from unexpected places. Lily was proving to be a truly worthy investment. Her early work, even in her foundational courses, showed a depth and maturity beyond her years. She had a way of capturing emotion and storytelling that resonated deeply. As Lily's first semester progressed, Mr. Harrison decided to solidify his support. He arranged for Lily to receive a full scholarship for the remainder of her studies at the Academy. This wasn't just a partial grant, it was a comprehensive scholarship that covered tuition, materials, and even a modest stipend for living expenses. This removed any future financial burden from Maria, allowing her to breathe a sigh of relief. More importantly, it freed Lily completely to focus on her art, unburdened by worries about future payments. The scholarship was presented not as charity, but as a recognition of her exceptional talent and the hard work she had already demonstrated. Director Evans, fully supportive, made sure the announcement was handled with dignity, highlighting Lily's artistic merit above all else. Maria, upon hearing about the full scholarship, was overwhelmed with a mix of joy, relief, and profound gratitude. She cried tears of happiness, tears that had been held back for years through countless struggles. To her, Mr. Harrison was more than just a benefactor. He was a guardian angel, a force of good who had stepped in at their darkest hour and completely changed their trajectory. She saw her daughter's future, once uncertain and shadowed by financial worries, now shining brightly and securely. The weight of years of struggle lifted from her shoulders. She knew Lily would now have every opportunity to achieve her dreams, all thanks to this extraordinary man. Maria often thought about how different things could have been, how easily Lily's dreams could have been crushed that day, and her gratitude for Mr. Harrison only deepened. Lily, with the security of the scholarship, continued her artistic growth at an astonishing pace. She used her art as a powerful medium to express her experiences, including the initial humiliation she felt that day in the registration office, and the overwhelming kindness she subsequently received. Her paintings and sculptures often explored themes of resilience, dignity, and the unexpected moments of human connection that can transform lives. Her work began to gain significant recognition in student exhibitions, then in local art circles. Critics and gallery owners started to take notice of this promising new talent. Lily always credited Mr. Harrison's unwavering belief in her as a major driving force behind her success. She carried the memory of his intervention not as a source of embarrassment, but as a profound lesson in compassion and the power of standing up for what is right. She knew she had a responsibility to honor that trust, to make the most of every opportunity she was given. Her art became a testament to her journey, a vibrant narrative of hardship overcome and dreams realized. She often thought about the coins, the heavy bags representing years of her mother's toil, and how they had ultimately paved the way for something far greater than just an art school enrollment. It had paved the way for a life. Years passed quickly, marked by the steady rhythm of Lily's dedication and the blossoming of her talent. She graduated with top honors from the elite art academy, her portfolio a testament to countless hours of passionate work and innovative thought. Soon after, she established herself as a successful and respected artist. Her work, known for its poignant depth and vibrant expression, began to capture the attention of the art world. Her pieces often explored themes of perseverance, the quiet dignity of everyday struggles, and the profound impact of unexpected kindness, themes deeply rooted in her own journey. Her exhibitions drew crowds, and her art spoke to many, resonating with a universal understanding of hope and resilience. With Lily's success firmly established, Maria was finally able to retire from her long and demanding job as a maid. The endless hours of cleaning and serving others were behind her. She moved into a comfortable home, a gift from Lily, where she could finally enjoy the peace and rest she had so richly earned. Maria spent her days tending a small garden, reading, and enjoying quiet moments, knowing that her sacrifices had paved the way for her daughter's brilliant future. She remained Lily's biggest supporter, attending every exhibition opening with a proud smile, her heart full of contentment. She often told Lily that seeing her achieve her dreams was the greatest reward she could have ever asked for. Mr. Harrison, true to his nature, continued his extensive philanthropic work. He never forgot the lesson learned that day at the academy. He consistently prioritized supporting individuals who demonstrated not just talent, but also determination and an unwavering spirit in the face of adversity. He often used Lily's story as a powerful example, illustrating why empathy, respect, and timely support were crucial in unlocking potential. He believed that true societal progress came from empowering those who might otherwise be overlooked. He found deep, personal satisfaction in helping individuals like Lily, knowing that his actions could change trajectories and foster greatness. His foundation became a beacon for aspiring artists and scholars from all walks of life, inspired by the success story that began with a pile of coins. One crisp autumn evening, years after her graduation, Lily, now a renowned artist with a growing international reputation, extended a special invitation to Mr. Harrison. It was for the opening of her first major solo exhibition at a prestigious gallery in the city. The gallery buzzed with art collectors, critics, and admirers. But Lily's gaze sought out one person in particular. When Mr. Harrison arrived, looking as distinguished as ever, they shared a heartfelt reunion. They stood together, looking at a large canvas, a vibrant piece that depicted a young girl, her face a mix of hope and apprehension, holding a bag of coins with a gentle, reassuring hand reaching out towards her. It was a clear homage to that pivotal day. They spoke softly, reflecting on the day at the academy, the humiliation, the kindness, and how it had all unfolded into this moment. Lily's eyes, filled with gratitude, met his. She then presented him with a smaller, intricately detailed painting, a personal tribute. It was a portrait of a strong, dignified woman, her mother, Maria, surrounded by subtle motifs of perseverance and love. "This is for you, Mr. Harrison," Lily said, her voice thick with emotion. "You gave me the chance to paint my own life." The Elite Art Academy, now under new leadership following Director Evans's retirement, had undergone significant changes. The incident with Brenda, though years in the past, was not forgotten. It had become a foundational case study in their employee training programs. The Academy now emphasized a strong culture of respect, inclusivity, and unwavering support for all students, regardless of their background or how they chose to pay their tuition. New protocols were put in place to ensure that no student would ever again face similar humiliation. The story of the cashier, the maid's daughter, and the billionaire's intervention had become an enduring legend within the Academy, a powerful testament to the transformative power of compassion over prejudice, and a constant reminder that true talent knows no social boundaries. Lily's success, born from that difficult day, served as the Academy's shining example of what happens when potential is nurtured and dignity is upheld.